Hello, everybody. We're live again. It is Sunday, 2 p.m. And so if you're here, say hello. It's for subscribers only. So if you want to chat, you can watch. But if you want to chat, you have to be a subscriber for at least 5 minutes before you can comment. So, welcome, everybody. Today, I answer everybody's comments. Offensive comments are not welcome, but so just keep it nice and friendly, and we can talk about all sorts of things related to truth. And no matter where you are on your journey, I tend to be more on the side of things like toroidal earth, decodes, mysticism, esotericism, is that a word? Esoterica, and also myths and gods, and a little astrology, that sort of thing. So I don't really talk too much about conspiracies because I'm not in the conspiracy camp anymore. But I am willing to discuss them if you have questions about them. So yeah, pretty much just ask anything that you want to know, or discuss or comment or whatever. If you're here, just say hello. Say hello, let me know you're here. I don't know about you, but I've had a weird week. There was some energy going around, and I got into an argument with my mom, and then started to talk to my sister, and I could see that was going to go awry, so I put that to bed quickly because I didn't want to get into a fight with her. And then I realized a friend of mine told me that, yes, there is an astrological thing going around, something to do with Mars being diminished or something. So that's where that's coming from. Hey, Nat, good to see you. So there's somebody in the hallway who's cleaning the hall, so there's going to be a bit of noise right now. But Driftwood, good to see you. Thanks for letting me know you're here. So yeah, there was that. And all week long, if you have not seen my last 2 videos, I posted one about the 2 Earths and one about triangles. And the one I'm working on right now is connected to triangles, but has to do with the key. So I kind of mentioned that in the one about the 2 Earths. And it's been a lot of information hitting me all at once. So it's been a little bit overwhelming in a good way. I welcome the downloads, or, the revelations, and I would rather have that than nothing. But yeah, it has been a little overwhelming at times, and the messages I've been getting, and it's been emotional too. A lot of the revelations having to do with the 2 Earths merging is emotional. So I think I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and I think there's like an emotional purging that has to happen that's connected to that before the merging happens. So it's like a final purging of any unresolved issues that are related to the heart. So I wonder if any of you have been experiencing anything like that. And please tell me if the video, the triangle one and the 2 Earths, if there's anything about it that you didn't understand, that you want to talk about, it's confusing. I mean, I'm going to get into it more in depth with subsequent videos. However, yeah, it is a lot to digest. It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to process. It's a lot to understand. So, yeah, if you want to talk about that, I'm open to talking about it here. Arthur, hello. Nat, same. It's been an odd week. You too. Okay. Nobody knows. Hello. Glad to see you. So, yeah, we've still got some people to join in, but let me know how your week has been and what's going on with you, whatever you want to talk about. The weather's warming up here, which is great. It's been really nice, but a little on the cooler side, and today's been warm so far, so I'm hopefully going to be able to go outside and enjoy the rest of the hot summer day. I did go for a run yesterday, which was much needed. I needed to purge this weird Mars thing, this frustration I was having yesterday. I was all over the place, but I feel better today, which is good. Had a nice chat, so that was helpful. So yeah, it's just been weird. It's been really, really odd. And I know anybody who is here who's in the Discord, I did share a link to a TV series in Korea called W 2 Worlds Apart, which is really, really good. It shows the two worlds. And, it's the same story. It's surprisingly well done. I guess because I'm thinking back in the 80s and what their quality of films used to be like back then, and I haven't really watched productions from Korea, but they're really, really high quality, and I think they've got a solid industry out there, which is great. They have a lot of television shows and movies that reveal the truth. They know something. So I highly recommend this TV series, W 2 Worlds. You can watch it if you want the link. It's in the Discord group, but you can watch it online, or I think Apple TV has it. But yeah, I've seen the first 2 episodes so far. There's 16, but it's the creator. The main character, her father, is the creator of a comic web series, and it comes to life. And so he's angry about that and thinks it's dangerous. So he tries to destroy his creation, and she goes in the creation to try to save the creation. So it's the same story, but it's a different kind of telling of it. It's very much like Free Guy. And I also shared a link to a movie called Barbie, which is coming out in July, which looks really good. That shows the two worlds, and also the same story told there as well. But that looks like a lot of fun, and it's telling a lot of truths in that too. So where are we? I've been out again all day, sleeping, drained. Sorry to hear that. Nobody knows. Nat, I can't use Discord. My brain can't comprehend it. Oh, okay. Yeah, if sometimes, I know when I first went on Discord, I was like, what is this? And it takes some getting used to. But once you're used to it, it's not really that complicated. But I can understand that. Like a lot of technology, I find, is not intuitive anymore. So it's like the people who created it, they know what they want to put in it, and then they don't test it on people who aren't accustomed to using it or something. I find a lot of it's very complicated these days. Yeah, a bit of last minute stress came to a head. My procrastination at work, driftwood. Yeah, that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing, because I'd like to hear how this is playing out with everybody, if it's affecting you or if it's just not affecting you. I don't know. It should be affecting everybody, but I guess if you avoid those things, then it wouldn't. But anyhow, yeah. So what else is going on with you? I Let me think. Well, in terms of me, aside from like the video I've been working on, I mean, I've been absorbed in that. And I did see a movie called, what was it? In Your Dreams, which is quite a good movie for truth as well. It was about this. It was a Turkish film with dubbing, and I think it was on Prime. So this man and a woman end up in each other's dreams, and they have this relationship together. They're two people who are not interested in love or don't believe in love. So they end up finding each other. They wake up next to each other in bed, married 2 years later. And they have a relationship in this dream. So I won't spoil it for you. It's actually worth watching. It was really well done too. And the actors are pretty charismatic. So yeah, I recommend watching that if you want to watch some stuff about two worlds. That one and W. And who's the other one? Obviously, Free Guy is a good one. So well, yeah. Well, if we don't have anything to talk about today, I can end this pretty early. I don't have anything other than what I've already said to discuss from my end. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. And nobody's making any comments. So hi, quirky chick. I got your contribution. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure if you wanted the Johnny Depp material because I can't contact you. I wanted to say thank you, but I can't message you. So you don't have to comment here if you don't want to. But if you would like them, just email me at TrueLoveCanada7117 and I'll send them to you. So yeah, I was just wondering if there's anything going on. It's like, nobody knows. You can't think of anything. Okay. Yeah, like a lot of the stuff is just personal stuff that I've been going through. And I don't really feel I want to share personal stuff, but like I said, I had an argument with my mom that was just about purging some old stuff that we hadn't resolved, and kind of stuff that I didn't really even know I had. But I think it has to do with releasing final blocks to Christ consciousness and unconditional love and all that stuff. And I've been trying to work out some of the details with respect to the two worlds and how they layer onto each other. I mean, I think I have it figured out. But I mean, at this stage, I don't know if it's accurate for sure. It's just, there's a lot of symbolism that indicates that it is accurate. And I was watching a video by Lindsay Harris, who has the channel Tomb of Illumination, and he was showing the toroidal earth, but he was talking about the two worlds, but he wasn't showing the two worlds. So I was a little confused. And I think it's because he doesn't know that there are two earths, like two separate worlds. And he's putting it into one. So anyway, it was interesting because regardless of how he was mapping it out, he was talking about the Egyptians were referring to how there's the lower kingdom and the upper kingdom, and the Bible refers to old earth and new earth, and but in the Bible in Revelation, they talk about New Jerusalem and a new earth. There's going to be a whole new earth that gets created. So this double earth, this two world thing that we're in, is going to disappear. And a new one will be created. And one of the things that I've been seeing throughout the process of like the last 2 years in creating videos is, you know how I've been making these creative videos that are assembling all of the various films and putting them together to show you how they are all one story told from different perspectives. So, you know, if you think back to my video of the superhero Awaken the God Within, I cut together 4 superhero movies with James Bond and everything, and they had basically the same scene of the woman falling and the superhero going after her, and she was falling into the 4 elements, and yet every scene was identical. And so seeing how they're all the same but they're fragmented, it's my job to put them back together as one story. And that's what I've been doing. And so I've been seeing that unfold, and it's kind of, well, it's magical for one thing, and it's kind of freaky for another. But as I'm putting it together, I'm noticing there's certain things that happen in this realm that are as a direct result of the video I put out in putting the pieces together. And so it's like when I put the pieces together, it's kind of fragmenting the world that is a fragment. It's a fragmented whole, you know what I mean? So that it's starting to shatter because of it, because I'm putting it together as a whole, which is very similar to the TV show W2 Worlds, because that's what she's doing. The daughter is going into the other world to save it, while the father is trying to destroy it. So it's just weird. It's just very weird. Brain fog this week. Lots of things happening. June 1st. What's happening June 1st? I'm about to date someone after 3 years of being celibate. I'm so nervous. Well, this is interesting. Do you care to elaborate? I mean, you don't have to get personal or anything, but I find it interesting because of, so you were 3 years single. Is that a choice that you made, like a decision that you made, and you're now deciding to start dating as a decision, or is this just something that came along, sort of circumstantial? I'm interested because of the break from one to the other. Like I said, you don't have to get personal, but I find it very interesting. Like, is this like in the sense that, is this like a love at first sight type of thing, that you like really, really keen on this person? Or is this just sort of, I want to get back in the game kind of decision? That's kind of what I am after in terms of my curiosities, just because of the new perspective that I have with the two worlds coming together. And, you know, a lot of time, no, not a lot of time, one such perspective on this world is that being celibate is a good decision in, well, preserving the seed, and also you know, some people such as Dev and Maggie have abstained from not just sex but relationships altogether. So I'm just curious about how various people approach this sort of part of their lives. I'm not really sure. I personally don't think that celibacy is necessary. I think if you are having lustful sex, is very different from making love. I think that is the difference. But and you can still preserve the seed that way. That's just my opinion. Don't, you know, you be the judge of your own experience. Everyone likes a timeline. When do you think this event will happen? Well, I don't know. Let me come back to that for a second. I recently learned that I isolate myself because of childhood post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, that's interesting. So that's tied into what I was talking about with my situation with my mother, that I recently learned how I formed a belief of like childhood. When we're a child, we form like what's called a schema or a prism that we see the world through, that we make a decision about the world, or we make a decision about people, or how we need to be in the world without really realizing it. And that becomes subconscious. And so we have to bring that to light in order to free ourselves from it. And so the fact that you realize this is very similar to what I was going through. And, you know, trauma is different for everybody. Some people have like seriously horrendous trauma, and some people just have something that creates a trauma that's emotional trauma rather than a physical trauma, you know? So one person's trauma to another person could be nothing, but you can't diminish that person's experience just because yours was more extreme. Anyway, I find it interesting that you see that, and that you are moving forward because of seeing it. And I think that is what's going on right now. So that's why I was asking the question. I don't know if I did a good job of asking it, but that's why I was asking the question, because once we clear that part of it, then we can move forward. And that's what this Mars, diminished Mars thing is. Nobody knows what it's called, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but this also brings up like generational trauma, where we carry trauma from our parents, obviously, because if your parents have unresolved issues, every generation kind of imposes those issues on their children unconsciously, because they don't even know they have those issues. They're just surviving. They're just coping with their world. And a lot of, especially in history, we didn't even deal with this sort of thing. We didn't look at this sort of thing. And now we're becoming a little bit more sensitive to it. So plus with psychology and everything, psychiatry that has only been around for, what was it, like, let's say 100 years. So you got the these traumas that are coming to light, and when you heal them, and hopefully you can go back and heal your parental trauma, which was what was shown in Back to the Future. Marty went back in time to heal the trauma between his parents, and that healed his own trauma, because he was trying to get them back together, but they got back together on a different, in a different way, and it healed their trauma because George McFly didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and neither did Marty, and neither did his siblings. And when he gave his father the confidence to write and to go after Lorraine, Lorraine actually had respect for him because he went after her in a more courageous way as opposed to getting hit by a car. And he didn't feel that he had value because that's how he earned her, was he got hit by a car. Now he has value because he actually stood up for her and proclaimed that he wanted to be with her. It was a decision rather than an accident. So that's why everything changed when he went back in time, or back to the future. And that's why his own life changed. And so in healing his parents' traumas, he healed his own and his siblings' traumas. So, if we can heal our own traumas, hopefully we're able to contribute to healing our parents and traumas. So thank you for sharing that. I'm 29 next month, and my therapist said I have Cinderella syndrome. What's Cinderella syndrome? Happy birthday in advance. Well, what is Cinderella syndrome? I've not heard of that. Is that like you're just waiting for your prince to come kind of thing? Or like, aren't we all? Isn't that what this whole world is about? Realizing that my mom was a narcissist because of her trauma, so she didn't really mean the stuff she said. Is that realizing the light and healing? Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, I think this is why there's a lot of therapists right now talking about narcissism and mental health, because this is part of the healing and part of the purging process, where we were in the dark before. We didn't even know what narcissists were, and now it's all over the place. Like, you can't escape it, because we need to be aware of this issue and recognize it, because unfortunately the definition of narcissistic personality disorder means that you can't look within, and you're not capable of love because of that. So you feel empty inside, you feel hollow inside. Now, if it is ever possible to shatter that, then perhaps they have the opportunity to heal, but that requires them taking responsibility, and narcissism is designed to prevent them from doing that. So it is highly unlikely for that to ever happen for a narcissist. And we're talking about people with that personality disorder, and there are varying levels of narcissism. So there's some people who have narcissism, or they're narcissistic, but they don't have the personality disorder. So they can behave kind of like one, but they still have a little bit of empathy, and it's kind of like a spectrum. Like most things, everything's a spectrum. Yes, I was saying yes, exactly to you, by the way. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. That's really fascinating. And to Driftwood, to go back to your original comment, while we're still on the track here, childhood trauma here too. I never got interested in a relationship. Now I hardly ever think about sex, especially lately. I don't look at it online anymore. The thought bothers me. They have the recourse back then to help. They had the resources back then to help. Didn't have the resources to help with introspection. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of emphasis put on it. I mean, a lot of times, like if you look at history, most people don't know anything about the mind. They don't know anything about the brain, and they don't know anything about the mind-body connection. They don't think that there's any connection between your thoughts and your reality. I don't think there's any connection between your thoughts and your physical body and your health and how you behave, which is weird. Like, why wouldn't you even consider that? I don't understand. So yeah, this position is changing now. People are becoming aware and learning about not just themselves, but the people around them, and starting to see their behaviors and have a greater understanding as to why they behave a certain way. And, as Nat was saying, it's not their fault. There's a subconscious or an unconscious, I guess, prism or trauma that's basically ruling their lives. This trauma is running the show. And if you're not aware of it, you can't do anything about it. So you just think that's the way you are. You just think that's the way life is. So you can't heal it if you're not aware of it. And when you become aware of it, you shine a light on it. That's part of the healing process for sure. But you still have to take action in taking it to the next level and healing it. Just knowing about it doesn't fix it. Katie, hello, happy Sunday. Cinderella syndrome, what I studied recently about it is avoiding responsibilities and waiting for someone to rescue you. Yeah. I don't really see like Cinderella didn't avoid responsibilities though. I mean, she was the most responsible person in the whole story. She was cleaning up after everyone, taking care of everyone, literally cleaning up after everyone. The only person she wasn't taking care of was herself. And when she actually finally wanted something for herself, the people that were supposed to care for her didn't, and they tore her down. And so she felt all alone. And that's when her fairy godmother stepped in and said, well, bibbidi bobbidi boo, let's take you to the ball. And so she met her prince. And, it's funny that your therapist says it's a syndrome and it's like a negative thing, but it's the truth. It's the story of this world. So I can understand that, because the way this world is created it's created in the absence of love, right? So we're here to remember what love is. And, it's a heartbreaking part of this place is that you have to find the love within yourself first, which is part of my frustration with this place. All of these like platitudes or catchphrases to do with relationships and love and everything, they're true, but the way that people present it to you is not helpful. Things like someday my prince will come. Love at first sight. All of these things, or you have to find the love within you first, because it's all about the ascension process. It's all about the coming together of the two worlds. And you can't find love outside of yourself. Everyone is looking for love outside of themselves to complete themselves, and it doesn't work that way. And so we have to find love within ourselves first, which is going through the ascension process. And looking for someone outside of us to help us or save us or fix us is not the answer, which ironically is not what is told in Cinderella. Like she got the prince because she had respect for herself and she loved herself. Because even when the siblings that she was living with tore her down and everything, she still radiated. She still had this inner light. And that was what the prince was attracted to, even though she had nothing. She was a pauper. She was a slave, basically, a servant. And no matter how much they tried to tear her down, she still stayed true to who she was. She didn't change. She didn't become horrible like they did. And she didn't retaliate on them. They beat her up and tore her dress and everything. She didn't lash out. She didn't go back and retaliate. So to me, it's kind of like an inverted way to look at it. That's my perspective. But nobody knows I'm bloody Cinderella. Totally relate. Yeah, I'm Cinderella too. So I like that she didn't become horrible like they did. Yeah, which is, staying true to your true character. Like, she was a very sweet person, but she should have stood up for herself. She should have said, "Listen, I'm not a slave. I'm not going to do all the work for you." But she didn't. But she didn't become a horrible person either. Shadows pass down, parents to children. Eventually someone has to figure it out or confront it, or maybe that was their role. Yeah, I mean, we're born into the families that we're born in for a reason, and their traumas affect you and how you live your life. And so that trauma is significant in creating your life story. And healing that trauma is part of your job in order to ascend. So this is all by design. So whatever the trauma is, it was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be there, and it created your story. It was part of your story. So, this is why, like, I'm not mad at my parents for anything they did. They did what they had to do. They did what they knew best. That's all they can do. I know my parents love me. I know that they're good people, and this one thing is the only thing that affected me, and I know why it affected me, and I know it was supposed to affect me. So it created my story, and that's part of my life and my story here and my purpose here. So I can't say it's a bad thing. And I get, yeah, I mean, it sucks, but I can't blame them. They didn't do it on purpose. And it was something that I decided as a baby. I made this decision that this is what it means. So how am I supposed to have control over that as a child, as a baby? I don't know any better either. And the same thing happened to them from their parents. They made their decisions about the world as a child, and that's carried through. So they didn't know any better. And everybody's the same. Everybody in the whole world is carrying around this childhood trauma and reenacting it on the world stage, and they didn't know any better. And so hopefully now that there's this light being shone on psychology and mental well-being, I don't like the term mental health or whatever, people are able to see these patterns and break them, which I think is part of breaking the glass, because the glass is part of the prism that we see the world through. We see the world as broken, heartbroken, as this is a place of lacking love. And so this has to go, this illusion, this, this mirror that we're in. Yeah, I'm not alone. I met someone recently that said they don't think everything happens for a reason. I was like, what? Okay, so okay, to answer your question earlier, Driftwood, I don't have an answer. It feels like soon. However, I know that back in 2017, it felt like soon that there was going to be a major world event, and so it took 3 years for that to happen. which was COVID. And then when COVID happened, I thought it was going to go quickly, and it lasted. It's still going on 3 years later. So in terms of timing, I don't know. I don't know. It feels soon, and it feels like we still have some things to go through that need resolving. There's people here who need to wake up. There's the purging of the final purging of what we're talking about right now. That needs to happen. And the uniting of male and female needs to happen. And I think that like the sky's gonna open up, so we see the other world, and then it's just gonna merge. So I don't know exactly how that's going to look or how it's going to happen, but the two worlds are going to merge. Now, what I find really interesting is, like, in 2017, I knew that there was going to be three, like a splitting of the earth in three, energetically at least. And now I know that I was right. I think that it's going to be like there'll be some people who'll be left behind, some people who will move into the other world, whether that's the metaverse or whatever, because we have the two worlds. And if they merge, or if a new world is created, I don't know exactly how it's going to look. And then there'll be some of us who go home. So, yeah, like, I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if anybody can know. It just feels like soon, because we are at the end of the story, and maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's an individual thing, but I think that it is an individual thing, but it's also a world thing. It has to happen on the world stage. So there's been a lot of celebrity deaths lately. There's a lot of people leaving the world stage. So it'll get interesting, that's for sure. What do you think about shadows, demons, and ghosts? I was thinking they are shells left behind from real people. What do you mean by shadows? Do you mean like shadow people? I've seen shadow people. It's kind of weird. I've seen a lot of things. I've heard spirits or ghosts, and I've seen shadow people, and demons. I don't know. I don't know that I've seen demons per se. What do I think of them? Well, they could be left behind from real people. They could be people who are stuck here not wanting to leave. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I'm still kind of trying to reconcile the two worlds into what how I viewed the world before, and merging that with the two worlds structure, because a lot of, I think everything's still frequency, and I wonder if these people could be stuck in a different frequency. So, and there's also like mind creations who, you can create egregores and this sort of thing, that haven't quite fully manifested. So there's that too. But yeah, I don't quite know what to think of them anymore. I think a lot of them are mind creations, but I think too, like spirits could be people who are left behind, who haven't transitioned over to the other side, going from one world to the other. Maybe they're scared to leave. I don't know. One thing that I was thinking was really kind of weird is I was listening to a near-death experience story, and the man was, like the common story of near-death experience or out-of-body experiences is that your spirit leaves the body, which I find really weird in the sense, if this world is an illusion and it's electrical, then how come your spirit leaves the physical body? Like, why does it need to leave the body behind? What is the body then? What is it? The only thing I can compare it to is if you look at, say, Free Guy, for example, when Millie enters the game, her connecting to the game animates the avatar. And then, if she died in the game, she wouldn't be able to come back into the avatar. And so the body just stays there and I guess eventually disintegrates. So I guess you could look at it that way. It's like the sort of the life force that's connecting from elsewhere animates the body. And then when it doesn't need it anymore, it disconnects. So if you look at it from a point of view of an NPC, they're animated by the game itself. And so that would be why they don't have any external connection. So that would be, I think, a good analogy. And so if somebody was, their spirit disconnected from the body and they stayed behind and they didn't know where to go, and they didn't know to leave, would that be somebody who's like still logged into the game, but their avatar is disconnected? I don't know. It's really interesting. So I met someone recently who said they don't think everything happens for a reason. I was like, okay, yeah. So I used to be one of those people. So I would think that everything happens for a reason. I saw it the other way. I saw it that there's a reason things happen because you do something, like cause and effect, right? But it's both. So things happen for a reason, and then there's a reason things happen, because cause and effect are the same thing, flip side. So you can look at it both ways. If you cross the street and you get hit by a car, well, you got hit by a car because you weren't paying attention and you're crossing the street. So if the car, what was I going to say about that? Yeah, you can look at it as that's predetermined, or you can look at it as, well, you wouldn't have been hit by a car if you didn't cross the street. You wouldn't have been hit by a car if the car wasn't there. So there's like a cause and effect. But if that was going to happen anyway, then the result, like the end result, the accident, is what caused you to cross the street when the car was going. So everything happens for a reason is looking at it from the end, saying this accident was meant to happen, so that's why you crossed the street when the car was there. Whereas cause is looking at it from, well, you crossed the street while the car was in the road, so that's why the accident happened. It's both. So we tend to look at things, like some people look at things from a fatalistic perspective and from the effect, and some of them will look at it from a deterministic point of view, which is the cause point of view. So in the cause point of view, you feel like you have more control because you made the decision to cross the street and the other person made the decision to drive down the street at that time. But you didn't decide to hit each other, right? But because of your sloppy decision making, you are responsible for the accident. Whereas the other side is the accident was going to happen. There was nothing you could do about it. And you're not responsible because you were just running your script. So this is like the illusion of free will. You think that you have free will because you crossed the street and you made the decision to cross the street. However, the accident was going to happen anyway, and so that accident is what made you decide to cross the street. So yeah, and you know, the idea of free will, a lot of people have a hard time believing that that's an illusion, and by saying that it's an illusion, they think that we don't have free will. Well, we do have free will. We just don't know how to exercise it yet. So we have this illusion of free will. And the illusion is that you think you have options. You think you have a choice. So when you were presented with the option of crossing the street, so you could have either stayed at the street corner, you could have turned around and gone another way, you could have crossed or run across the street, you could have looked first. There's all sorts of things you could have done, but all of those options are covered by the predetermined you were going to be in this accident no matter what. So I had a little street theater the other day, and this is kind of this similar sort of example because if you remember a few years ago, I had street theater where I was walking down the street and these two boys were coming my direction and they stood on either side of the sidewalk and I walked between them. This one was kind of similar. And so at the time I was trying to figure out how that happened because, you know, it had to have been timed perfectly for these people to meet me at that precise moment in that precise place. But now I understand that there is nothing that I could have done that was going to change that. It was going to happen regardless. So I would get an impulse to say, hey, go this direction or go for a walk at this time. And I got up and went for a walk at that time as opposed to walking at my normal time or going down a different street. And there isn't anything you're going to do that's going to change that. So it's scripted, and you think that you have free will. You think that, well, I could have gone down that street or this street or this street. I could have gone at a different time, but I didn't. I went at that time. Now, the thing that happened was we're looking at it from a physical perspective that these are regular people who have lives and everything, and yet they are dictated and directed to meet me on either side of the sidewalk. Well, why don't they have lives of their own? Don't they make decisions? Don't they, like, why are they there strictly for my experience to have this twin pillars experience? Because they're not really real people. They're part of the movie. They're part of the story. And it's really hard to wrap your head around something like that. So if you're supposed to be in an accident because it's written in your story, it's going to happen no matter what. If you think you're going to avoid it by going in this direction or that direction, like if you watch the movie Triangle, there's a prime example in there of how she tries to avoid the loop by breaking the pattern. She sees a pattern, so she tries to avoid it and do something different. But it's later revealed that her decision to break the pattern is part of the pattern. And so it shows that has been looping as well. So there's nothing you can do to avoid your story, nothing you can do to avoid your script. It's going to play out. It's very weird. But anyway. Does that make sense? Do I still have people? What do you think about scripts and fate and free will and determinism and fatalism and all that? What are your thoughts on it? Do you have any examples in your life where it became obvious to you that your life was scripted, or so like one of the things that with these tragedies that I decode on my backup channel, on my second channel, a lot of people are having a hard time figuring out about these crisis actors. And like I said, like if you're looking at the world in purely physical sense, it would be very hard to figure out how they operate or why they do what they do. But if you look at it as a metaphysical dream world movie, then the story of whatever event they have to participate in makes it look a little easier. So it makes a little bit more sense. So like say you have a crisis actor who, like that woman I did a video on, Lies, 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 who she's played 5 different characters. And I don't know whether they seem like real people. You could probably meet her in real life, but her programming is such that this is what she does. And, maybe there's just this supernatural element to it where she's not really cognizant of what she's doing. She just runs the script and doesn't think about it, which is kind of like the 2 people, the 2 kids with the twin pillars, where, if I stopped to talk to them, they'd probably sound like real people and talk like real people, and they'd have a backstory and everything. But they were serving the purpose of being that street theater for me. And this, to me, is how these events play out, is that these people are there to run the movie. They're there to put on the show. I mean, it's such a weird concept altogether, really. It's like the movie Memento, or Revolver. At the end, they find out it's predetermined script, their script. Is it Memento or Momentous? They find out it's yeah. I mean, that's kind of freaky when you think about it. It's like we think that we're in charge of our lives. We think that we're in control, but we're not. And you like to think that you're in control, but you're not. And it's just an illusion. It's, it's like if you're ever in a play as an actor or have to make a speech or something, you write your script, or you have a script. And when you're performing as that character, you're not supposed to break character. You're supposed to stay in that character and do the script and do the story. If you break character, like the story falls apart. People like, what's going on? You can't do that. And some people just stay in character too long and forget that they aren't that character. So the story, the script becomes real for them, and they can't get out of it. which is very rare. I mean, you do hear like Heath Ledger and him having some issues because he was immersing himself in the character of the Joker, as they say. I mean, who knows if that's true or not, but they said that he lost himself in the character of the Joker because he wanted it to be so, nuanced and multi-layered and realistic. But that's the danger of it, is that if you're living that character all the time, you can lose yourself. You can lose yourself in it. So, anybody have anything they want to talk about? No? You can tell sometimes, especially interacting with people, if you examine it after, it seems like an act. Yeah, that's true. It's like there was an experience I talked about. There was an experience I talked about that was at a restaurant with the waitress, and I had asked for a salad without croutons or something, and so she brought me a salad and it had croutons on it, and I said, sorry, but I asked for it without croutons. Can you please, take it back or whatever? So she just stared at me. She didn't know what to do. And she's like, would you like me to take it back? I said, yes, please. And it was just like talking to a robot who wasn't capable of thinking on her own. And I was just astounded at how kind of blank she was. Yeah, it was very strange. And sometimes you can't break their code. Like the incident at the Source electronics store that I had some time ago, about the masks and such. And the lady attacked me for not wearing a mask. And she's like, can you please move further away? Even though I was more than 6 feet away from her. And this was like well past like the main COVID stuff. And so she was, double jabbed and wearing a mask, and she just wanted to be a nasty person. And she couldn't get off her programming. She was programmed to attack people who didn't have a mask, who weren't following orders. And when I challenged her on it, all she could do was just repeat herself. So I repeated myself back to her. I was like, just stop. And she wouldn't listen. So I just got increasingly aggressive with her. But it's just not, it's like the program was fighting back, and she was sort of personifying the program in a way. Like the Source is an electronics store. So the source of this world is electric. Like that's kind of weird. But yeah, sometimes you can tell by how they just repeat their script, and they can't get off their script. And if you try and get them off, they get stamped, they get stumped. They don't know what to say. They go into shock. They stutter. They sort of, I guess you could call it glitching. It's not really technically a glitch. But, Nat, are we going to World War III? In my opinion, we're in World War III already. It's an information war. I was actually talking to my mom about this some time ago, which was kind of shocking. My mom and my dad seem to be, they listen now to people like Jordan Peterson and everything. So as much as that's still controlled opposition, it's something, because those people, I think all sides are designed to wake people up. Like the left is called the woke side, and then you've got the conservative side, which is where my parents are, but they're both extreme. So they're both trying to provoke people into waking up to see that this world is not what it seems to be. But it's polarizing people. And, part of the problem that I'm facing at the moment with my family is my sister's on this side and my parents are on this side and I'm in the middle. And I don't want to, argue with them, but I just sort of drop seeds here and there. But my sister's kind of lost. She's lost. She's so into the woke programming and aggressive about it too. I don't understand. It's like she's taking on their opinions as her identity, and it's kind of scary. And then my parents are listening to Jordan Peterson and Matt Walsh and the other guy, I forget his name, Shapiro. And for them, it's refreshing because they're the opposite side of what's become mainstream with the left side. So it's refreshing to hear somebody talk sense, because largely they do talk sense, but they're kind of getting into waking them up about the weirdness here, which is great, but they're still in the controlled opposition camp. So I was talking to my mom about it, and I was pleasantly surprised about some of the things that she's becoming aware of as a result of listening to these people. And my mom said something about being in an information war, and I said, yeah, we are. And it's been, since COVID, it's been an information war. This is World War III we're in. And essentially, I explained to her that COVID is like double vision. COVID, the people who see and the people who don't. And so, there's a glimmer of hope there. And, if you talk about programming and you talk about Free Guy and how, like, Guy was different from the other NPCs in the game. Guy came to life because it was written in his programming to come to life when he was triggered by falling in love with Millie. So he was brought to life through love. And the others, they followed the new programming. They didn't, they were told to change how they behave, but they didn't come to life the way Guy came to life. And it's possible that they could have been programmed to come to life. I don't know, but in the story, it wasn't. They were similar enough that they could change their programming to stop doing what they were doing and put an end to the war with the living beings who kept coming into their territory and fighting them. And then they created their own world that was peaceful and not fighting. And but Guy was the only one who came to life because of love. And the living beings were like out. They weren't playing in the game anymore. So the game existed without them. So that's interesting. So if we're not in control of this game, who is controlling us? Well, my husband does that. Does what? Quirky chick. Well, who is controlling us? Well, it depends on what level you're looking at it from. Because in the story, the creator, the father, is the one who's controlling us. Basically, all of the stories say that we're trying to break free from the father, and yet you're, in a way, returning home to the Father. So we had to gain our independence and our authenticity, but also not fight with the Father. Do you know what I mean? So if you saw my first daughter decode, you see that the daughter, who is the archetype of Venus in Katie Holmes, she leaves to go to school and she wants her independence. She wants to be treated like everybody else. But the way she goes about it causes problems because she's essentially going to battle with her father, as opposed to respecting the fact that this is her position in life and her father is the president, so she can't be like everybody else. And in accepting that she can't be like everybody else, then she is given the freedom to be like everybody else. It's kind of a paradox. So if you can look at it from that perspective, that will help explain how we're under the control of the Father, the Creator, which is like the dream within a dream. And if you look at the Get Into My Car video, the Get Into My Car is our, it's like Frank was the one who created the simulation. And so he has control over the simulation, and you're getting into my car to get out of the dream. So the car is the Merkaba, and you're getting out of the dream world, the fake illusory world, to get into eternal life. And so you're getting into the real world. So the Father controls the fake world, I guess you would call it. But yeah, but basically it's like dream within a dream. We're dreaming in here, and we're part of a bigger, grander dream of the Creator, the one. So we're essentially controlled by the stars. The stars dictate your story. Where are we here? Glenn Bordeaux, hello. The concept of script is downright impossible to explain to my partially awakened friends. Anyway, I'm beginning to see how my script operates identically in my dream state. It's all me. That's really cool. Can you elaborate on how you see your script playing out in your dreams? Or are you using your dreams as a parallel to understand how your real life operates? Because that's how I do. I look at dreams. When you think about a dream and how you create everyone and everything in a dream, it's a similar situation here. So when you think about how all of these beings that you think are real in this dream world that we live in, and they're not actually real, because even though we sleep here and we wake up here, this is still a dream world. We're not really, we're here, but we're not really here. So you can look at this look at your dreams as a way of interpreting this world and understanding this world. So when you're dreaming, and you create everything, you create the story, you create the landscape, you create the world, you create the atmosphere, you create the people, you create the dialogue, all of it's created, and it plays out instantly like a movie. And you can have a dream that feels very long in a very short amount of time. So if you fall asleep and say you fell asleep for 10 minutes, you can have a dream that feels like it lasted, a day. The way that the dream is told, the way it's shown to you, it feels like it's been a day. And then you wake up and you thought, oh my gosh, that was a long dream. He's like, you've only been asleep for 10 minutes. So time is kind of warped in that way too. So looking at your dreams is a very interesting way of interpreting your reality. Same with like, you are still you. You're not anybody else in your dream, and you don't see yourself out there unless you're looking in a mirror. But in a dream, you're still you. So, and you don't come across other people who look like you, and you create all the other people, and you have interactions with these people. So, and they seem to have backstories. They seem to be solid people. They seem to have history, and you feel like you have history when you're talking to them. You like, I've had interactions with people and I instantly know who they are. I know what they do. I know their names. I know they have a family. How do you know all of this if all you see is this person in an office? And it's like, oh, I know this person. You've never seen them before in real life, but in the dream, you know this person. Oh, that's Sally. She's divorced with 2 kids, and she's working late, and she doesn't really like me. And yet you know all of this instantly. How? This is just mind-boggling how we know all of this. But yeah, dreams are very, very fascinating. But yeah, you created it all. They're not actually people. You created it all within your head instantaneously. Jack Marley, hello. Verbal lines are presented to us through our thoughts. When you recognize this in conversation with others, you can change the lines and change the story. You become the writer. Yeah. There's been times where, I mean, you are the writer, only it's subconscious. So the story's playing out, but if you don't like what's happening, you can change it. Or even if you do, you just want to play around with it, you can change it too. So there's been times where I was in a zone where I was particularly good at manifesting, and I was playing around with things, and I thought, well, I'm going to imagine that I have a boyfriend who is a celebrity. So I picked a celebrity, and because I wanted to see what would happen. And so I imagined that I was dating this celebrity, and it was kind of fun, but I didn't go around. I told one person, and I was like, I shouldn't have told her, but anyway, I started to see this celebrity everywhere. Posters, a movie of his came out, and so it was very weird because this celebrity just started to show up in my experience quite a bit. And so before I went home, I said to myself, I said something like, I want to talk about this guy with my sister. And as soon as I walked in the door, my sister said, "How's your boyfriend?" And I thought that was really funny how this sort of play practice thing that I was doing played out, where that was the first thing out of her mouth was, "How's your boyfriend?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And so she actually named him and mentioned him by name. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's actually working. So that's one example. And then I think I've told you about the example where I was on holiday in Mexico, and I thought it would be nice if I had a glass of wine. Someone brought me a glass of wine. And then the waiter comes over and says, "Would you like white or red?" And so this like telepathy was going on. And I've had instances like that many times. So yeah, you can totally plant thoughts in other people's heads. And I mean, it's not malicious or anything. It's just part of this world and how it works. I mean, obviously you can do malicious things if you wanted to, but it's not a good idea. But here's the thing. So if you're not protective of your own energy, you could become part of somebody else's thoughts, right? So somebody else has a thought and you operate off of their thoughts because you're receptive to it. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You're just contributing to their experience. And so, but if you don't want to do that, then you should protect your energy so that you can't have their thoughts interfere with you. So, which is again, back to the sort of thing where you have these tragedies and you have these experiences with people who have thoughts of, I shouldn't go here. And it may not even come in the form of an actual thought. It might just be an impulse where you get redirected. And normally you go to work at this time, but something delayed you. You were late because it's written in your script that you're not supposed to be there. So that's why a lot of people will say that, oh my gosh, on that day I should have been at work and I would have been in that tragedy, but something made me go this way. Something made me late. Something made me turn left instead of right, or take the subway instead of a cab. Whatever delayed them is because they weren't supposed to be there, because it was part of the show, so they were delayed. What surprises me is how few people are interested in these subjects. I think most anyone that is going to wake up already has. Driftwood. Yeah, very few people are interested in these subjects because it's weird. And I think most people who are going to wake up already have, to some extent, yes. But I keep seeing new people wake up, and I think, like, obviously 2020 was a big moment for people to wake up. Now, are they going to wake up fully, or are they just going to wake up to the conspiracy that something's weird? I think too, like, a lot of people are only going to wake up to a certain level and then perhaps recycle back to finish. But yeah, you can't take too much truth all at once. It would kill you. It's too shocking. It's too much stress. But there are a lot of people, I've noticed a shift, because I used to talk about conspiracy stuff, and there's a lot of hate and anger in the conspiracy realm. And then when I tried to move away from that, I got a lot of pushback because people were like, where are you going? Like, what is this? What are you talking about this weird stuff for? So I got a lot of pushback when I was trying to get out of the conspiracy realm and then and talk about more esoteric stuff. Now I don't have any trolls. It's really nice. I gotta say, it's really nice. But probably, partially because people don't understand it, but also because I think that you get to a certain point and you get protected. So that's good. And I think that's what people refer to as the full body of God, the full armor of God. But I don't think people really understand what that means. They think that it's just like something you say and then you're protected by God. No, it doesn't work that way. So you have to do the work to get there. And it's like a step in your enlightening process. But yeah, a lot of people don't understand it. It's weird and hard to wrap your head around. There's a lot of people in the conspiracy realm who will never get past it because they can't see past the physical. If you can't see past the physical, you won't get out of the fear trap. You won't get out of the conspiracy realm. If you're stuck in the physical, you're probably an NPC, and you never will get out of it. So you have to have some sort of awareness of the fact that this place isn't just physical. And for some people that's impossible, and for some people it's just difficult to wrap your head around. Driftwood, Jack, that's an interesting concept. It's like we don't own our thoughts, but if we see it, maybe we can react different and start with writing our own script. Maybe that's the goal. Yeah, that's partly the goal for sure. Like, if you saw my triangle video, it mentioned the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is the realm of duality, and the tree of life. And the tree of life is the now. And so you take full responsibility, which is why when you are part of the Ascension process is taking responsibility for the things that you create and the things that happen in your life, because this is why we're on a script. We're on a script because we are in a realm where we are not taking responsibility for the things we say and think and do. And this is why we have all of this chaos and, negativity and nastiness. And so we're learning to take responsibility for the things we say and do and for how it affects people, and learning to come back to unconditional love, learning to come back to Christ consciousness. And then we are able to claim our authenticity, be true to ourselves, and be in a state of love. And that is when you are off your script. As I said before, you may not want to go off your script, but you have that option. It's part of your choice of free will. So getting into the tree of life, you exercise your free will, which means you take full responsibility for what you say and do and behave. So, yeah, that's definitely part of it. Jacqueline, sending positive energies from Newcastle. Hello. Thank you for positive energies. Glenn Bordeaux, same guy, same tendencies, hubris, grace, etc. All pointing to real-time waking world dream time. Driftwood, I have moved around a lot. I've had encounters with people that were the same character, like twins, hundreds of miles apart, different names, happened many times. Yeah, I've had that too. It's like when you get to know people, like new people, and you say, well, you remind me of so-and-so I went to school with. And it's more to do with their energy or personality, because you still have unresolved issues probably with that energy, that character, whatever it is that they represent to you. So you carry that with you. Doesn't matter if you move around a lot, you're still going to have representation of whatever it is you need to resolve presented to you. Yossi Chippin, hello, welcome. I appreciate your videos. Thank you. Appreciate you saying so. Jack Marley, Driftwood, I see similar templates all the time. The more you become the observer, the more you see. Yeah, with this two worlds key revelation, every major revelation, you see the world in a different way. So I'm seeing this world differently again, and it's forced me to kind of be more detached. I don't know why. I don't know why I think this is why. Because, speaking of script, because we were talking about this in the Discord group as well, is that even our awakening is scripted. And it's probably because if you're not ready for it, then it's probably scripted that you won't wake up, or you'll wake up to a certain level. But yeah, your awakening is scripted. So you can also see that in Westworld, that her awakening is scripted. So, where was I going with this? The observer. So yeah, like I've noticed that, after the 88 gate, my experience with the 88 gate, I thought, hey, this is great. This is all exciting. And I was all excited and happy and things were good. And then all of a sudden I fell into a funk. And I talked about it on a video about how I was in a bit of a funk. And several other people said they were in the same boat. And I was like, I wasn't getting any messages. I wasn't getting any breakthroughs. I was having a hard time meditating. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm in the tomb. I guess I'm going to be stuck here for a little while. I hope it doesn't last long because this is painful. And the messages, I mean, I was getting messages. I get messages, but I wasn't getting any major breakthroughs. And so like the messages I was getting were just keep making videos, and I can't be told revelations. I have to figure them out myself. But I was told to just keep making videos and that it will come. And when I hit upon the get into my car video, that was a huge breakthrough for me in getting out of the cave, because it showed me how all the little things that led to me figuring that out were presented to me. And then after the two worlds revelation, once again, I saw how all the little pieces were presented to me. And now, and even since then, every single thing has been coded with a message. And it's like I'm being led to certain things just to show me things. So like I was asking, okay, well, what does this realm look like then if we're for the two worlds? What is the shape? What does it look like? And I was watching a romantic comedy, totally neutral. And in the background was a table with a certain shape. And I knew that I was supposed to see this table. It's like my eyes were directed to the table, and I could feel that my body and my mind and my eyes and everything were being directed to things that I needed to pay attention to, that I had no control over, so that my awareness could notice them. And this is how I realized that I'm becoming more detached. And I thought, well, this is weird. Like, I didn't do anything to become detached. I'm just noticing that I'm not doing it, and even in making videos, I know, like the video I'm working on right now, I know that this video is already done. I'm just putting the puzzle pieces together. They're falling into place because this is where they're supposed to go. And, it's kind of a weird feeling. It's like, I know that I'm not really doing it. Like, I'm doing it, but I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? So I'm more or less observing. It's a very weird feeling. Anybody else feel like that? Anybody else have this experience? I think my cats like your voice because all 9 of my black cats are literally sat by the TV looking at you. I know what to do now when they get hyper. Put your video on. Well, that's good to know. It's funny because my cat likes a few voices from YouTube as well. I used to play those videos when she was a kitten, so I think that she finds it a little bit soothing. And so sometimes I'll play it just to play their voice. But maybe they hear my kitty too. Cats are spies from another realm. Interesting how the Egyptians viewed them. Yeah, I don't know what the connection, I was thinking about that myself. I don't know what the connection is with cats, because with cats and Egyptians, because Egyptians revered the cat. I love cats. And so I don't know exactly. Does anybody know what the significance is between cats and Egyptians? My mom has 2 friends with life circumstances so similar they seem to be the same character. Wow, Laurie, that's really cool. Yeah, they probably are. Okay, so speaking of which, I noticed this, and my parents noticed it too. So there was a person in my life who had a very specific story, very outlandish story that was a complete fabrication. And it involved 2 other people in this story. And my parents, when I told them about this story, my parents said I was watching Dr. Phil. My mom watches Dr. Phil sometimes. And she said I was watching Dr. Phil, and this woman with the same story came on, and she even had the same name. So I watched the story, and I was astounded. It was almost identical, down to the lies, down to the same people that were involved, down to how they looked. They looked almost identical. I couldn't believe how cookie cutter it was. And so, yeah, I would not be surprised if there are copycats of people playing out the same story. Because if there's so many people here, there's only going to be, it's the same story fragmented multiple times. So there's only going to be so many ways to tell that story. And then if there is, which I doubt there's 8 billion people here, but if there is 8 billion people here, then chances are that story is going to be repeated a few times. I had an experience, Yossi. I had an experience when I was producing an album. It all brought itself together. Oh, cool. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. This is what, when you do something creative, no matter what it is, anything creative, you will experience how it has this sort of life of its own, which is what is shown in that TV show W, because this guy who creates the web series, it had a life of its own. And if you're a writer or a musician or like anything that you create, even baking, it can show up in baking, woodworking, gardening, because you use your imagination. So let's say gardening, for example, you use your imagination to envision what this garden's going to look like. And then the garden itself in your imagination starts to give feedback to you, right? So you say, oh, I want a garden that is like French manicured, classic, highly designed garden. And so you start with that, and then you start drawing patterns and designs, and some things don't fit and some things do. And then you go out and you plant it, and the garden starts to take shape and take on a life of its own, and it starts to talk back to you. And so while you're making the garden the way you think you want it to be, sometimes you'll hit a rock. So the thing that you wanted to plant in that spot isn't going to work. So you have to rejig it, or maybe it rains and so you can't plant that day. And so then you have a mudslide. And so you think, well, what a disaster. I can't do what I wanted to do over there. So I'm going to have, because you're going to have a runoff or something. So you realize, well, it's not going to work if I put it there. So your garden is starting to communicate with you. And, a lot of times we think that these little disasters are problems, but they're actually the thing that we're working on is talking back to us and saying, like, no, it'll work better this way because this is going to fit into your vision, your end vision of what you see this becoming. And there's also a magic involved that makes it even better than what you thought it would be. Writing songs is the same Doing it, not doing it energy. Yeah. Glenn. Nat, my mom told me Egyptians view cats as protectors. That's cool. I don't know if Ixie's my protector, but okay. Maybe energetically. I got 9 after my mom passed away. Aw. If I had a bigger place, I would have more cats. Not a lot. I don't think I could handle 9, but maybe 1 or 2. Cats are able to walk between the veils. Ooh, cool. And yes, protectors. Excellent. Yeah, 9 cats. I take my hat off to you. Yeah, I don't think I could do 9. Like maybe if I had a farm or something and I could put them outside of the house. Like I love cats. I love rabbits. I like dogs too, but you gotta get a proper dog. It's gotta be trained. I don't know enough about dogs to do that, but a well-trained dog is good. But I like animals. Horses I'm allergic to, so I can't. I'm allergic to a lot of animals. I'm not allergic to Ixie though. 31 cats. What? A feral rescue, another 25 outside? Dude, that's a lot of cats. Oh my God. You must be well protected, Bubscat. That's a lot of cats. There's a lot of cats in Rome. And I remember I went to Rome in the 90s and there's stray cats everywhere. So it's kind of weird. Like it's like they're as common as squirrels are here. And you're kind of tempted because they're so cute, but yeah, you have to let them be. Rome is not as it wasn't as nice as I expected it to be. It was really dry and there was no relief from the heat. And I like greenery. There's no greenery. So I was really kind of disappointed in my experience in Rome. I don't know. Maybe it takes a couple of trips because when I went to LA the first time, I had a horrible experience and I didn't like it, but I've been back since and now I love it. So I think frame of mind and everything has a lot to do with it. I didn't have a negative frame of mind when I was there though, but I was there by myself. So I was a little bit closed off and protective because Italian men are very forward and kind of scary. So yeah, I didn't really venture off too much. I stayed very local and safe. So anyway, just birds here, no cats. Dathramar. Okay. If you have birds, you probably don't want cats. Bub's cat. I relocated to a new property on an acre. I've been rescuing found babies over and over. Luck and wealth have changed for the better. I'm a believer in the power of cats. Wow. That's really cool. You gotta watch cats. My mom got infected one time. Unfortunate solution, not worth repeating. Oh dear. Infested. Oh, I thought you said infected. It says infested. Yeah. I don't like reptiles. I'm not a fan of reptiles in terms of animals. And I don't really see them as, they're not very cuddly. And I'm not a fan of fish as a pet or anything. I mean, they're pretty to look at, but I wouldn't want to pet fish. I like cuddly pets. So, yeah, that's why I like my cat. Anyhow, where were we? What were we talking about? We're talking about creative energy and things taking a life of its own. And we got into cats. able to walk between the veils. That's so cool. So yeah, anybody got anything else they want to talk about? You got any more questions or comments? Anything going on with you that you want to discuss or share? Any weirdness? Any videos you've seen that are really interesting? Any revelations you've come across? No? You said all our lives come together at some point. Yeah. This is the remembering who you really are. You will remember your past lives. And, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, you should be able to remember your past lives. I don't know how that looks. Like I said, I've remembered a few and had glimpses into them, but I don't know whether I can't imagine that you're going to be flooded with all the information from all of your lives, because one life is enough to keep in your head. But in terms of remembering who you are and possibly being able to reconnect with your past lives if you want to. So if you remember who you are and you say, so this is what I did. I remember who I am, and I reconnected with my past life in Egypt and in Mesopotamia, and I also did 3 other past life regressions where 2 I didn't know where I was going, and 1 I knew I wanted a past life regression to do with a certain person who was in my life. And so that's how I've connected with my past lives. And, there's similar themes playing out in those. And they're very vivid. It's almost like dreaming, but not quite like dreaming. And it's very fascinating. So I don't know. I can't really explain them at this point. But like I did talk about one where I reconnected with this person who I knew I had a past life with. So I wanted to see what the past life was. And I found this one particularly interesting because it was all in French. And it was around the 1700s. And we were part of a prominent political family. And we had a beautiful home, beautiful children, and a really strong, positive relationship. So it was all very positive energies. And so I saw scenes of how we met, and I saw, and conversation. It was very Jane Austen-y, which was weird. And another conversation in talking about politics and out in the garden. And I can see vividly, I saw vividly what the room looked like. I saw vividly a letter that I was working on. I saw vividly the garden, the people, the ballroom where we met, all the people in the ballroom. I mean, it was very weird how specific it was, and everything was in French. I was thinking in French, I was speaking in French, and all of it was in French. And I'm not a fluent French speaker, so that was kind of weird, which is why partly why I think that we should be able to tap into our memory and be able to speak any language that exists. We should be able to remember how to speak all the languages at some point. Anyhow, yeah, so that's how I've tapped into my past lives. But in terms of them all like flooding back to you, that hasn't happened yet. And I don't know whether it does happen that way or whether you just are able to tap into them because you know who you are. Are you familiar with Warhol Damregard? Old Damregard? I don't know what that is. He breaks down false flag events. No, I'm not familiar with that. Can you say a little bit more about him and his work and what he does? How does he break them down? Driftwood. We probably played many parts, tyrants to saints to peasants. I did have a vivid dream one time. I was an English textile ship merchant in India. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, personally, from my experience, you can play many parts and still play the same story. And that's what I think we do. I think we play the same story, the same character, but in many different versions, which is how I've looked at Johnny Depp's story. He's the same character, same archetype, and played many different parts in different versions, but it is the same archetype. And so far, in my experience, in going back through my past lives, is the same archetype there too. And the same patterns are playing out, the same story, the same elements show up in every story. So this is why, and I've noticed too, like those films, each movie is representing a life in itself. So this is why I think that when it comes back to you, it would probably come back to you in pieces as opposed to like the whole life story, because it would just be overwhelming. It's too much information. Laurie, have you seen the series The OA? Yes, I have. I thought a lot about you while I was watching it. If you find it interesting and have some time, it would be great to know your opinion about it. Yes, I have seen it. It's brilliant. It's weird, but it's brilliant. It was some time ago that I watched it, but there's a lot of truth in it, and it's been a while, so I can't really comment too much in specifics, but definitely worth watching for sure. Yossi, he finds clues in the events that give the date for the next event attack. You both in parallel? Okay, well, that's kind of interesting. Is he accurate? I mean, it's easy to give a date, but is it accurate? Because I've noticed patterns too where you can tell that there's going to be an event on a certain day. And typically, okay, first of all, there are events, tragedies that happen almost every day. So you got to be kind of particular and specific. And some events are bigger than others. But typically on major astrological events, there's a tragedy. So because they want to draw attention to it and your attention to it, to feed it with energy, but also they put the message in there so that hopefully wake you up. Yeah, I'm not ready yet to reveal what archetype I am. I will at some point soon. There's just a lot that goes into explaining it that I don't want to get into in a chat. And and also I don't want to I gotta be prepared because it can get kind of personal. But I appreciate you asking. Have you watched the show The Devil's Hour? No, I haven't. I haven't even heard of it. What's it about? Yes, he proved time and again. Okay, cool. Can you leave a comment or a link to his channel in the comments section of this video for me so I can go check it out? Thank you. Dathramar, that show was all about remembering other lives and how they are all linked like a web. Oh, that's cool. Where can you watch that show? Where can you watch The Devil's Hour? It's like, I've never heard of it. There's that movie, somebody pointed out some time ago, this movie that talks about past lives. I forget what it's called. Anyway, I mean, it's a good movie. I've seen it before, but I find it a little slow. And that one's about past lives and how they're linked together as well. Driftwood, there's an interesting person on YouTube called Archaics. Yeah, I don't like him. He's a shell. He gets into historical chronology, pretty accurate. It's not accurate. He makes stuff up. He's full of crap. Honestly, I get triggered by that guy. He's full of crap. And there's very few people who trigger me. And there's very few people who are like what I perceive as dangerous shills. And, like there's some like sort of soft shills. And I don't like talking about shills anymore. It's just such a negative thing for me. And I've been down that road. And it was a necessary road for me to point out some shills because a lot of people weren't talking about it. And a lot of people weren't talking about those particular shills. And so I don't like talking about it anymore. But if there's certain shills who get mentioned who I feel it's necessary to mention that they're a shill, I will say something, but that's where it ends. I'm not going to get into it in depth anymore. I'm not going to do videos on them anymore. And I'm just going to make mention of it so you're aware of it, and then you do the rest of the research yourself, because it's such a negative energy for me. I can't do it anymore. Could be MLK. I'm not sure what that means. Yes, I can't seem to find his channel. Yossi, I can't seem to find his channel. Yeah, that's why I asked for a link, because I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure I could find it. He was in prison long enough. Who knows? Well, exactly. There's a pattern with these shills. Prison is one of them. And he was in prison for a very long time. And what I will say, the main thing that he rests his whole convoluted, complicated theory upon is 1902. There was a time in 1902 that all these inventions were made, but if you look them up, they weren't invented on 1902. So his whole theory falls apart. And yes, things are repeated, but his theory is very vague, and his theory is very convoluted, and he has no real substance to back up what he says. He uses his own theories to back up his own theories. So he triggers me big time. And yeah. No. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I can understand why people watch, I guess, but he's also, like there's been a lot of buzz around that guy, and like by other shill channels, and that's another red flag too. Like when other shill channels have on shill channels to promote them, yeah, it's just part of the discernment process in understanding what's right and what's true and what's not. And if you're listening to people who are not telling you the truth, there's a reason for it. So I'm not going to tell you not to listen to anybody. Like you can get information from anybody. You just have to figure out for yourself what's true and what's not. So if you want to listen to people who trigger me, then that's your decision and your choice. But yeah, like there's some that just can't deal with it. So yeah, let's move on from that point. They do get a cult following, yeah, and they worship them, and he's got a cult following. And so yeah, there's quite a few people who are like the same pattern, where they have a cult following and you can't criticize anything. Like the whole 1902 thing, you can't make a comment to say, well, that's not true. And I mean, you're not insulting the person. You're just saying, like, listen, you what you're saying isn't true. It's not accurate. So 90% of his comments are on the positive side, and there's like maybe even more than 90%. I think I've seen 1 or 2 negative comments on his stuff, and you can tell that a lot of the comments are bots. So yeah, anyhow, no, it's fine that you brought it up. It's okay. But I mean, it's fine because it's part of the whole process of paying attention to these channels. And it's like, I think Martin Kenny's a shill, but he's got some good information here and there. And you got to pick out where he's deceiving. So that's what I did. I was like, okay, let's look at what he's got to say and weed out the bullshit, because there's some helpful information here, but something isn't right. And it's almost like, okay, so what these shills have a tendency to do is they get ahead of the process. So they knew that this part was coming out, so they get ahead of it and take ownership of it, so that when the real people start talking about it, they make it look crazy, or they make it look weird, or they take dominance over that subject. Like with the flat earth and everything, you had all of these shills dominating flat earth, and they made it look crazy. They made it look like stupid and childish, and because they were misleading people with wrong information. So they would take some truth, and then they would make it into some like craziness, and try to dominate the conversation, so that this is as far as it's going to take you. You think that we live in this sort of pop-up bubble, and that's the end of it. They give you all the answers, and this is what the earth is, and so you won't look any further. And so all of these people in the flat earth camp now think that that's the model for the earth, but it's not. It isn't, and that's not where it ends. And so if you don't have the impetus to keep looking, then you're not going to figure out that we live in a torus, and then you're not going to find out about the two worlds. So a lot of these shills are all at different levels to gatekeep, and also to drop clues, so you can pick up truth, and then you have to keep going. And so yes, like all these flat earth shills, on one hand, they're telling you the truth about the flat earth, the earth being flat, but they're not telling you the whole truth. They're only giving you this much and then a bunch of lies. And so, they might tell you some truth, like the two worlds, but then they're trying to contain you in this bubble to say that this is all the answers. This is everything you need to know. Don't look anywhere else. And I will never take that as the full and complete answer ever. I take what's said and then I'll say, okay, let me recreate it. Does it make sense? Does it fit in with what I already know to be true? Okay, if it doesn't, then how do I rejig it? Because I know that something here is true. So what's true about it? How does that fit? How does that work? What can I see in this that I already know to be true? So how do I rework it? How does it fit? And if it doesn't fit, I set it aside until it does. Or if it doesn't fit at all and I know it to be lies, I discard it. So anyway, who is someone I trust? Well, I have a very short list of people I trust, and I'd say that in the sense of like, I trust them in the sense that I think that they're genuine. I don't think that they're intentionally deceiving. Do I trust that they have all of the information? That's not really necessary. I think that if their heart's in the right place, they're telling the truth. They want to get out genuine information. They may not have all of the pieces, and they may only have one of the pieces. That's all that matters to me. I think if they're telling the truth, whether they know all of the truth is irrelevant. It's the people who are deceiving you deliberately that I don't trust and I don't want to listen to. So yeah, there's like a layer of a bunch of shills who are full of fear, full of nonsense, distractions, superficial, physically based nonsense. They'll tell you things like the elite are evil. They'll tell you things that we're in hell. They'll tell you things like this is, a trap and all this sort of thing. They don't tell you how to get out. They tell you just raise your frequency. Okay, well, what does that mean? What do you mean raise your frequency? How does that look? What are you supposed to do to raise your frequency? So in terms of who I trust, Bill Donahue, what's his name? There's a few channels that are like, don't put out any content anymore. What was his name? I can't remember these people's names off the top of my head. Lord Osseron. Who else? Epiphany Lectures. He talks about the Kabbalah appearing in stories and movies. There's a lot of information on Devin Maggie's channels. Very few people, actually. Jason Bickford's got some good information. And I think he's genuine and honest. So yeah, like very, very few people, but I'm more interested in things like mythologies, astrology, putting the pieces together. Oh, there's also like Lindsay Harris and his flat earth model. I think he's genuine. I think he's real. And I think he's telling the truth. So I don't think he's a shill. And a lot of what he says is accurate. So that's a few of the people. I absolutely agree. I used to watch AJ. He sucked us all in and then went crazy on the news, made us look crazy. AJ. Who's AJ? Alex Jones. Yeah. So that's a prime example. Alex Jones he's your mainstream gatekeeper into the deception, and that he serves a purpose. He will tell you a little bit of truth and make it look crazy, scream and shout, sensationalize, and create this sort of cult-like following. And and he won't talk about certain other subjects. I don't think he ever talked about flat Earth. If he ever did, it was probably mocking it. But he would talk about the tragedies. He would talk about chemtrails and, all this sort of conspiracy stuff. But he made people who believe that stuff look crazy because he's controlled opposition. So he's a prime example on the extreme end. He's totally extreme. There are probably very few people in this realm. Yeah, probably. Probably very few. Shills, now that's a rabbit hole that I'm not keen. I almost thought everyone was a shill. Not everyone's a shill. They try to dominate, though, and they try to control the narrative, and they also try to... The ones that trigger me the most are the subtle ones. I don't care about the mainstream shills. Like Alex Jones doesn't trigger me because he's obvious. The flat earth shills don't trigger me because they're obvious. The ones that trigger me are the subtle ones. The subtle ones that suck in people into this cult-like following, into, almost being so attached to them that it's terrifying. And the subtle ones really, those trigger me because so many people fall for them, and they are so hard to detect. Well, they're harder to detect, and coming up against them is near impossible because of their mask, and those ones are dangerous. So those are the ones that you really have to be aware of, and because they will mislead you, and because they're so subtle, you won't even realize it. So you end up taking on what they say without question, without interpreting it for yourself, without figuring out for yourself, is this true? And how do I know that it's true? And you got to be very careful that you're not doing that. So that's why those types trigger me. So yeah, not everyone is a shill, but there are shills at all levels. Even small channels have been exposed as shills because they try to make them look authentic. They try to make them look like they're just real people like you and me, and then they go weird. And so that ruins it for the real people. It's very difficult for people to discern who's genuine and who's not. Which is the point. You have to hone your discernment. You have to be able to know within you what's true and what's not, what's real and what's not. So that's the role that they play. Even them, I don't really see as evil. They're doing their job. That's the job they have to do. They have gotten plenty of my louche fear. The narrative is starting to change. It's not as fear-based anymore. It's you made it, you have a gift coming. What? This is what they're telling you? Oh dear, that's just as dangerous. Wow. Saxon on the beach. Hello, welcome. Yeah, it's just as dangerous because it's giving you a false impression. So, like, I was talking about this person yesterday, and in my early days, there was a channel who a lot of people watched. Her name was Quartz Crystal, and she's got some interesting information. It's not all bad, but she said she won the game for us, and that the game was over, but you needed to pay her money to get information. And I was like, what? If you won the game and the game is over, then why do we need to do anything or pay anybody anything? Doesn't make any sense. And so, this contradiction is a big red flag. So it's like, she was talking about giving out codes or something. Like, what do I need codes for? You don't need codes. So yeah, stuff like that is kind of fishy. But like I said, there was some stuff that she gave out that was useful information. But when you're like telling people that you won the game, well, then the game's over. We don't even, I think she was even saying that you don't need to do anything, but if you want to do something, here you can do this. And that was a little bit weird. But to tell people that you've made it, congratulations, you have a gift coming. Like, have they actually done anything? I watch them. Eventually I figure it out the hard way. They are extremely intelligent. It's almost a mismatch. Yeah, well, here's another side. Some of these people are gifted speakers, not necessarily intelligent. They're not stupid by any stretch of the imagination. They're not stupid, but they're not particularly intelligent. They're just gifted speakers. And they know how to basically cast a spell of illusion by making it seem like they're saying something insightful or magical or wonderful or particularly new or revolutionary or insightful when they're not. And so there's a lot of people who are like that. I see Jordan Peterson as one of those people. He's a gifted speaker. He does say some very intelligent things. He does say some very insightful things. And then he goes off on a tangent and a big old rant that's nothing but word salad. So you get sucked in to, oh man, this guy's really intelligent, and he will say something intelligent, he will say something very insightful, and then you get sucked into like 3 hours of his diatribe about nonsense. It's like, okay, what the hell did I just listen to? But this is the spell. Like, the words are casting a spell, and a lot of these people who are placed in the shill position are wordsmiths. And so they're not particularly insightful, or they're given a thing to talk about, a script. Whether they talk on their own or whether they actually read a script doesn't really matter, but they're given what they have to talk about, what they have to say, and talking points, and they make it sound good so they can weave this magical spell over you and lure you in with their charisma and their personality. And so I think it's a major problem with some of these people. Maybe a hive mind thing. Could be a hive mind thing, which would take us back to the supernatural side of things. And But some of these people, I think there's like this sort of duality of some of these people are paid shills that are, they're planted. And then there's other people who are probably part of the hive mind, which that doesn't really bother me if they're part of the hive mind. They just don't know what they're doing. So the paid ones are the ones that bother me. But yeah, like the telling people that it's over and you won and the game's done and you have a prize coming. It's kind of dangerous if they haven't told them, hey, you got work to do here. And but like I've said, that process is automatic. I mean, the things that you are going to have to deal with in the ascension process are going to come up whether you like it or not, and you're going to have to deal with it, which is kind of unpleasant sometimes. But yeah, the whole process is automatic because it's all scripted. But a lot of those people aren't going to talk to you about that. They're not going to say that. They're not going to explain it to you. But anyway, I don't know. Let's move on. I just started watching Quartz Crystal. Thank you. I'll carefully analyze her videos. Yeah. To be honest, I wouldn't waste your time. Like I said, she's got some interesting stuff, but yeah, I wouldn't waste your time. I'll put it this way. She's entertaining. There wasn't anything I learned from her that I would say, hey, you got to go watch this because it will change your life. And she's got a major piece of the puzzle. You can watch her if you want. It's harmless. But like I said, if you have more important things to watch, I would watch those instead. There's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing horrible about her. If you want to watch her, by all means. I'm just saying it's kind of, if you have more important things to do that instead. Just because, like, our time here in this process is short, and I've been through so much of the mud, and part of what I'm trying to do for other people is say, hey, I've been down that road. Here's a warning sign. Like, go there if you need to, go there if you have to, but this is what it is. And you'll see it eventually, or maybe you won't. But it's all your path. It's your journey. But if you want to, shortcut, that's what it is. But sometimes you have to see for yourself. So, yeah, like I say, watch it if you have to. Watch it if you want to. There's no reason why you shouldn't. But if you don't want to waste your time, then I'll just tell you the shortcut. But like I said, it's your journey. You need to go through certain things yourself and experience it yourself. Nobody knows. Got to go listen to the rest later. Night, night. Bye. Nobody knows. Our time is short. Why sell out doesn't make sense. What do you mean sell out, Driftwood? What do you mean by sell out? Doesn't make sense. Well, they don't know. Like, we're talking about sleepers here. These aren't wakened people. If I understand what you're talking about, like, why would they do this? If you're talking about people who are NPCs, they're part of the program. If you're asleep, if you're a sleeper, you're an NPC, somebody offers you a job and they're like, hey, come take this job working for us. We'll give you some scripts. You'll be on YouTube and we'll pay you. Just need to make these videos and do this. You'd be like, hey, sure, why not? What am I talking about? Well, you're going to talk about conspiracies and stuff. Cool. Okay. why would you not do it? If you don't have an internal compass that tells you that it's morally and ethically wrong, if you don't have the spark that's going to wake you up, if you don't see anything wrong with it, it's a job. It's just a job for you. So they don't see what you see. They don't see that truth is important. You know, someone like a Mark Sargent who is making a mockery of flat earth. He is just paid actor, and he doesn't see anything wrong with it because he doesn't know that the truth is important. He thinks he's just doing something for a job. This is fun for him. He gets to be a mini celebrity on the YouTube stage making fun of flat earthers. Laurie, appreciate your advice. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. Like I said, if you want to watch her. I'm just giving my 2 cents. What is their motivation? Yeah, like that's basically it. They just see it as a job. It's like if you don't know the truth and you don't know the importance of it and you don't know that we've been lied to, and you think that it's all a big joke, maybe eventually you might start to question things if there's some spark in you. But at that point, you should probably quit your job. So, yeah, I see it. They see where we are going, hijack real people's info and take over the topic. I wonder who will duplicate your work. I've seen some people say, okay, so there's a channel who does talk about similar things to what I talk about, who I believe is a shill. They're kind of a quiet channel. I won't name the channel. There's no point. But, he puts out some of the more like esoteric, like movie related coded stuff that I talk about, but he doesn't take it any further. He'll just say, oh, look at how many times they mention 9/11. Look at how many times they put in the all-seeing eye, stuff like that. It's more fear-based and sort of scary-based. And then there's another channel that talks about movies and is starting to talk about things I talk about. He's a shill. Yeah, he's starting to talk about some of the stuff I do. So there are a few already, but they're never going to talk about what I talk about because I'm telling you the truth. There's no, it's so obvious. It's right in front of you. There's no manipulating it. I'm putting the story back together. So they're not going to go in that territory. I don't see how they can. So there's the decoding territory. There's a few shills there too. Decoding like news stories and stuff, and all they will do is they'll do gematria. They won't do the symbolism. They won't do the story. They won't put the pieces together to show you the story. They won't tell you that it's all one story and it's all about your awakening and kundalini. I honestly haven't seen anybody do that, but doesn't mean there aren't people out there doing it. There's people pointing out to little tiny pieces. They're not putting it all together and saying, this is why this is showing up. So, yeah, but there are shills in like various aspects of what I show. And you probably know who I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't want to mention their names. So, anyhow. So, anybody, you got anything else you want to talk about? Any more comments? So yeah, I mean, like in my Discord group, I've got a section in there where we talk about, it's like a deception detector, and we talk about, is this person legit? Is this source legit? So if you want more information, there's an opportunity to go in there and say, like, if you don't want to talk about it here, and you come across a channel or something and say, what do you guys think of this? Is this legit? You can always ask in there. And part of the reason is it gets difficult. In there, it's a little bit more private. I know people screenshot things and pass it around, which I don't really appreciate, because that can be kind of vicious, and I don't like that. But if your intentions are honorable, that's fine. But there's people, like, if you're putting out talk about other channels and shills and everything, it's difficult because I've outed some people who a lot of people really like and really disagree with and can't see it and don't want to see it, and I had a hard time putting those out, but it had to be done. That's why I don't really like talking about on video specific channels, but it's part of the territory. So yeah, I'll do that from now on. Keep it generic here. No need to make unnecessary enemies. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to make enemies. But people need to know. People do need to know, because you can get sucked into some of these channels and you can waste years on them, and you can go down the wrong path, get given some really bad information, and get caught up in things that are totally irrelevant, absolute distractions. And if your time is valuable to you, why do you want to go down that route and get stuck in like dead ends? I don't see the point. But hey, like, that's me. A lot of people don't really take it seriously, and they just like the entertainment, they like the distraction, which is fine. That's your choice, that's your prerogative. But if you're serious about your ascension process, and you're serious about truth, and you're serious about finding the truth, then why waste your time? Why would you bother? I mean, at the very least, learn the skills to be able to have discernment for yourself, which is ultimately your goal anyway. It isn't necessarily to look at a long list of people and identify them as shills. It is just to be able to hone your discernment to the point where you can watch anybody or anything and extract truth from it, and not worry about whether they're shills or not. Because your faith is within yourself. That's the whole point. The whole point of all of these shills. That's what they're there for. And so if somebody tells me something, they can tell me something that looks like truth, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to say, okay, how does this fit? Where's the deception? Is there deception? And whether it's intentional or not, some people put out information and it's not complete, but they have pure intentions, which is, we all, like the real truthers or real people, they have honorable intentions, and they may not have all of the pieces, but the way they speak. So, for example, again, I'm not going to name the channel, but I was watching a channel, and he was talking about an aspect of truth, and he had a diagram that he was pointing to, and the diagram wasn't matching up with what I knew to be true. Like, he's missing a piece of the puzzle. But the language he uses was accurate. What he was saying was truthful. But because he didn't know this piece of the puzzle, he can't show it pictorially. which is fine. I know he's not lying. I know he's telling the truth. He has the information. He just hasn't seen it yet to put it on in the diagram accurately. And that's totally fine. So you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So you can't say, hey, you're missing a piece of the puzzle. And when you are on your journey and you watch somebody who's a little bit further behind, but they're on the same path, like they're missing a couple pieces, but they might be further ahead they might have a piece of the puzzle you don't have yet. And whether that's a tiny piece or a big piece, doesn't matter. But as long as they're on the path and they have something valuable to say, that it's truthful. That's really all that matters. That they're genuine. They're coming from a good place. So, so it doesn't matter. But, I've wasted years, necessary in my opinion, but I'm done with all that. For sure. I've talked to people who, and that also comes from asking the right questions or better questions, because I've talked to people, especially through my channel. I get all sorts of types of comments and everything, and some people left comments saying that, I've studied the truth for 20 years, or studied conspiracies for 20 years, or been down rabbit holes for 20 years, or what have you. And I said, yeah, but time doesn't equate to knowledge. You can invest 20 years in nonsense and never have the truth. And you can invest 5 minutes in the truth and get more knowledge than you do in 20 years. So it's all about asking a better quality question. It's all about knowing where you want to go and knowing what you want to get. Because when you ask, it's given to you. So a lot of people who are stuck in fear trap or conspiracy world, they're not asking questions. They're just blindly letting it lead them. And, they might say, some of them might ask questions, but they may not ask questions that are going to lead them further down the road. They might just ask questions that's going to keep them contained in the same box, if you know what I'm saying. So like, say, if you're presented with a pizza box, somebody tells you about the pizza box, they tell you that the pizza box is of these dimensions, and it puts, the pizza goes inside and it keeps it warm. Well, they'll ask questions like, well, does the pizza box open? How do you get inside? So they just talk more about the pizza box. But what you really want to know is, when am I getting my pizza and how much does it cost? So there's a difference in how you ask the question. I know that's a stupid example, but there's a difference in how you ask the questions and what you actually, because you will get the answer to the question that you ask. So if you ask a better quality question, you'll get a better quality answer. And if you're asking questions that keep you in the pizza box, you're never going to get out of the pizza box. You're just going to get more pizza box. Your goal is to get out of the pizza box, right? So a lot of people don't even think about that. They don't think about, well, where am I going? What do I want to get out of this? And a lot of times it's just entertainment. It's just, like you say, it's just an addiction, and it becomes a curiosity. And there's a lot of channels that I used to watch because they were entertaining. Mad Bitter Truth, he's entertaining. He's a little negative, but he's entertaining. I get a chuckle out of it, and sometimes you just need a chuckle. Sometimes I like to watch his channel because it's truthful, gives me a laugh. And it's nice to listen to somebody who sees the fakery, and that's all I want. I don't want a deep, insightful, introspective, deep dive video. I just want some, brainless, sit back and watch entertainment type of thing. It's a bit superficial, but he's still telling the truth. So I still get the truth hit with just some fun, But he was also instrumental in a lot of ways for me in pointing out these tragedies. A lot of the things that he pointed out was like, okay, I see what you're talking about here. And I don't think he was the one who introduced me to the fakers. I think it was Jurassic Liars, actually. No, I figured it out myself. I decoded the JFK assassination and the Oklahoma City bombing before Flat Earth. So that was a long time ago. It was January 2017. But I didn't realize that everything was a tragedy. And then Jurassic Liars did help me with some of the codes, in the sense like he's got the sun in the name and that sort of thing. But yeah, he got nasty. So I don't watch his stuff anymore at all. But sometimes I can go back to some of these channels and find them entertaining. I like to see what they're talking about and where, like, sort of get a gauge of where they're at. Like you were saying, that this is the direction has changed a bit, which is interesting. Because I don't watch them, I don't know. So sometimes it's just interesting to get a gauge on what they're talking about. I don't know. Anybody here who wants to admit that they watch these channels after everything that I've said, and it's okay if you do, I don't care. But if you want to share what the gauge is on these channels and what they are talking about, I'd be happy to hear about it, because it's helpful and it saves me from having to watch them. Like, if it's noteworthy, like you were saying, that here's your prize, like that's kind of noteworthy. So yeah, comfort zone for sure. Comfort zone, absolutely. Like, yeah, like the whole territory is designed to keep you in the fear zone. And a lot, because we've been living in the fear zone so long, you don't even know you're living in it until you get out of it. And for a long time, I was trying to help people get out of the fear zone, because it's such a huge hurdle. But it's such a trigger for people, because they want someone to point the finger at, and which is the comfort zone. The fear zone is the comfort zone. You feel that you've got like-minded people around you. You've got people that you see that things aren't right here. And so you kind of bond with them, and then you can have someone to point the finger at and blame. That also makes you feel comfortable. So it's like, oh, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And I'm a victim of it, and I'm in a prison, so there's no getting out of it. So there's a bit of a comfort zone there. It's like a passivity. It's like, oh, it's not my fault. I'm in a prison. There's nothing I can do about it. And it's all their fault. So I don't have to take responsibility. I don't have to do anything. And there's nothing for me to do. So that is the opposite of what you have to actually do. I just figured TrueLoveF lately, but I got a lot from him in the beginning. Yeah, good for you, because 100% he's not, he's one of the triggers that I have, put it that way. But he's a likable guy, for sure, totally likable, which is part of his charm. He's a perfectly likable guy. And, I like the guy. He's, like I said, there's nothing to not like, except for the fact that he's not telling the truth. That's the only thing not to like about him. So Any other comments, questions, things you want to talk about? I'll tell you in Discord sometime on the gifts, they will always target the ego. Please do. Yeah, of course, it targets the ego. Like, okay, one of the biggest ego targets that I've noticed is the targeted individual. You are a targeted individual because you're a Christian. You are a targeted individual because you're one of the 144,000. You are a targeted individual because you're special. You have special gifts and special talents. And look, there's nothing wrong with being special. You are special. But all of that talk appeals to your ego, which is not what you're supposed to play into. So there's, again, it's like, that's kind of like an abusive way. It's like an abuser would talk to somebody. It's like, oh, you're special, so I hate you. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, so yeah, there is a phase where you go through the truth and you hit the fear zone. The fear zone is when you become a targeted individual. And some people get stuck there. And some people go schizophrenic because of it, or psychotic. If you're not careful and you don't get out of the fear zone, you can lose your mind. The fear zone is when you start to become paranoid because you realize this world is not what you thought it was. You think that the people are out to get you. You see like that there's the elite who are lying to you. They orchestrated this whole world and they control everything. I mean, that's pretty terrifying revelation to come to, isn't it? If you can't get out of that, it will tear you to pieces. So you get into this trap of the targeted individual, and some people stay there, which is why, one of the things that I talked about for quite some time was targeted individual is self-created. And, people take it the wrong way. They think that it's like it's all made up, that you're imagining things. Well, in a sense you are, but it's real. You are self-creating it. You're creating it from your fear. You're creating it from your paranoia and your fear, and your subconscious is creating it outside of you. So the sooner you recognize that you've created it, you can take your power back and uncreate it. So if you get stuck there, there's this whole community that is geared towards this targeted individual that makes you feel you're not alone and you're not crazy and that you're special because of it. And they target you because you're a Christian, you're awake, you're a truther, you're 144,000. And so then you attach that to your ego and it's become part of your identity. And you stay there. You won't move past it. So if you see somebody looking at you, you attribute it to being a targeted individual. And then you'll start yelling at people that you think are following you, which may be following you, but you created it. So they're following you because you created the situation. And so you go and confront them and they have no idea what you're talking about because they don't know what you're talking about. So they're one of these like mind projections. So they won't know what you're talking about. And so if you're driving down the street and you think that white cars follow you everywhere, you're going to see white cars following you everywhere. That's how the mind works. It's law of attraction. So unfortunately, this community will tell you that you're special because of it, which is horrible. You can get stuck there and think that it's a good thing. And it's not a good thing. Get out of it. Uncreate it. Get a hold of your fear. Get a hold of your mind and end it. Realizing that you created it, you can uncreate it. So, where is this? Nat, oh my God, I'm in the fear zone. Why do you say that? Driftwood, yep, been there. You're 100% correct. Thank you, Driftwood. I'm glad you agree. Beatnik. Hi, TrueLove, and everyone. Welcome. Natalie, I don't trust anyone, and I know I shouldn't think like this. That's okay. You got to go through it. But if you recognize now that you're in the fear zone, you can get out of it, which is huge because a lot of people don't even recognize that they're in it. And denial is a big problem. They think that, well, no, it's true. There's people out there to get me. Yeah, because you believe it. So when you get past it, they're not out to get you anymore. So if you don't, okay, so there's not trusting anybody, and that's fine. But you can get to the point where you start to trust yourself. And if you trust yourself, then you don't have to worry about other people, which is kind of like what I was saying with the shills. So you get to trust yourself in knowing what's true and what's not. So you can watch anybody. It doesn't matter. But you probably don't want to watch the shills because it's just garbage. And you don't want to have that. You don't want to be taking that garbage in your brain. So when you get to the point where you don't trust anybody, that's a necessity. It's a phase that you have to go through because you need to learn to trust yourself and learn to trust how you can protect yourself in certain situations. And, especially if you've been through narcissistic abuse, it's very difficult. You don't want to get close to people because narcissists are slimy, sneaky people who are able to fall under the radar. So you need to take time out and work on yourself to protect yourself, and then slowly integrate yourself back in to make connections with people so that you don't make the same mistakes you did before in letting people in too soon, or letting them in too much too soon. So you kind of get to know them a little bit better before you let them in. So you can also say, this isn't going where I want it to go, or I'm not comfortable with this. Or if you recognize that they're a narcissist, you just close the door on it and be okay with that. You can close the door on them in a kind-hearted way. You don't have to be harsh. You don't have to be mean. But the harshness and the meanness generally comes from fear and not knowing how to put that barrier up and saying, hey, listen, I feel like you're treading on my boundaries and I don't like it. They don't care about your boundaries. They don't know what boundaries are. They don't see boundaries. It's not a challenge for them to overcome your boundaries. It's, I don't see boundaries. What are you talking about, boundaries? This is a joke, right? Like, no, you are part of me. We're friends now. There is no boundaries. So they just don't recognize them. And in my experience anyway. So you can't, the best way for me that I've learned to recognize a narcissist is to tell them what you want. If they're not willing to give it to you or they can't give it to you, there's a problem. They may not be a narcissist. They may not have narcissistic personality disorder, but they might have something else that prevents them from seeing that. But it depends on how they react. If they react harshly and negatively and say, well, you're ridiculous, or, they put it onto you or something in a very harsh and negative way, then they're probably a narcissist. If they're just sort of don't comprehend it, they probably have something else going on and they're not narcissist, but they probably can't meet your needs. So you can choose for yourself whether you want to continue with their relationship or not. But narcissists are scary. Some of them are scarier than others, but they're scary. And so if you've ever gone through narcissistic abuse, you don't want to repeat it. You don't want to go through that again. Yeah. I found out my best friend was a narcissist, and that was shocking and horrifying for me. And it was devastating. So I had to cut off my friendship with her, and that was horrible. I mean, she wasn't the worst narcissist I've ever encountered, but she was what's known as like a mid-range, lower mid-range. So those are harder to detect because they're more like passive aggressive, slightly like borderline type of thing. Whereas I had an encounter as well with a borderline histrionic who was probably sociopathic. So that was incredibly dangerous. And I don't want to ever encounter one of those again, ever. They're horrifying. Your projections can't really hurt you. You just get you hurt to hurt yourself. If you are targeted, let it go. No reason to be afraid. Yeah. As a targeted individual, hold on, I missed a comment. So all my fear are my ego and not my intuition. Fear comes from ego. Your ego's protecting you. So the fears are there for a reason, but it's an illusion. So you have to work your way through it so that you can release the fear. If you're targeted, let it go. Yeah, if you're targeted, you just have to see it for what it is and let it go. Realize that it is an illusion and self-created. If you're holding on to it, you're holding onto it for a reason, because it makes you feel important, which is why these communities create this, you're special kind of idea, because they need to justify it to themselves. They need to justify. It's a victim mentality. It's perpetrating the victim mentality to say that you are special or part of the 144,000, or you're targeted because you're Christian, which is about specialness and different, and it justifies being a victim. Why would you want to hold on to something that victimizes you? So you want to take your power back. It serves a purpose, but when you realize that you're doing it yourself, you can undo it. Quirky chick, narc abuse is real. Yeah, it is. Feel you 100%. I'm surrounded by narcissists. Yeah, that's horrible. Damn right, they're scary. They are scary. They're very scary. They can ruin your life. Like I said, they don't see boundaries, and they feel entitled to all sorts of ridiculous things. So you can't set a boundary with a narcissist because they don't see it. So the quickest way for you to figure out if they're a narcissist is to try to set a boundary and say, can you not do that because it bothers me or it upsets me, or you're encroaching on my space and I don't like it, or something to that effect, and see how they react. Sometimes, depending on the level of narcissist, like the more evolved ones, I guess, they're more aware and they might be a little bit onto your game, so they may not respond the way you expect them to. But I will say narc abuse is part of the process. They help you to heal certain things within yourself that attracts them into your life in the first place. Because generally speaking, if you are attracting a narcissist into your experience, you're probably too giving. You're probably too open. You're too mostly giving. And there's also a tendency to want to help people when you should be helping yourself. So I've noticed there's some people who attract narcissists who are fixers, and they don't even notice that they're a fixer. They see it as like helping other people. And like I had a tendency to want to help other people, and I realized that I was giving too much of myself and not being appreciated for it. And so I stopped doing that and said, okay, where do I draw the line? Because I was having a lot of people who were like, I guess, like victim narcissists, which are some of the lesser narcissists from using HD Tutor's terminologies, who were wanting me to give them guidance or something, but they wouldn't take any action. So they just sucked all my energy. They just wanted my attention. And I was like feeling that I was helping, but because they weren't doing anything, all they were doing was getting the satisfaction of my energy and my attention. And I was getting drained. And so I was like, I got to stop this. I will only answer if somebody asks me a question. I will only answer a question. I'm not going to go and offer to help in giving anymore. And I'm going to stop at a certain point. It's like, this is not my responsibility. So yeah, a lot of times it's because we give too much, and narcissists see that you are willing to give, they will take. And if you find somebody who's a very generous giver, the narcissist will just take and take and take and take. And so you have to figure out where your line is, and only give to people who are worthy, only give to people who matter, and then figure out where your line is so you stop. It's like, okay, I'm only going to do this much. I'm not going to do this much. So I'm a large man. I got into a friendship with my brother after 13, is that 13 or 18? 18 years apart. Narcs weave their way in all aspects of your life. I finally manhandled him. I was done, but he wasn't scary. Ooh, sorry to hear that. Yeah, they do. They try to control you because they don't. So the thing is that, they created, I have a lot of empathy for them now. I understand them better. Whereas before, they're so scary that I was afraid of them and didn't want anything to do with them. But now I feel heartbroken for them because, oh, Jesus. Because they went through some trauma as a child. And this is a defense mechanism that they created in order to protect themselves. And sometimes this place just breaks my heart. So, yeah, I feel for these people. And I really hope that they can break that. But I don't know that they can, just by the design, just by the structure of what it means to be a narcissist. So I don't know if they can. Anyway, so yeah, I have empathy for them, and I guess, part of me wanted to help them, and that's what attracted me to them, but I can't do that anymore. So yeah, I had to really figure out what was my issue so that I could not get involved with them anymore. And then if I do happen to encounter someone who's like that, I just stop it because I can't deal with them anymore. Full body chills, so much truth in that, Rainbow Warrior. Yeah, I'm glad you hear the truth too. Sun Tzu, good to see you. Yes, hurt people hurt others. Yeah, they do. And, you know, like I was saying earlier in this chat, this is something we create when we're younger and we don't realize we created it. A lot of narcissists, most narcissists don't know they're narcissists and will never know that they're narcissists. They don't even understand why their experience is what it is. And so, you know, it's like being trapped in a box. Like they're trapped in this box where they're yelling at people and engaging with other people, but really they're yelling at themselves. I mean, we're all doing that to some extent, but narcissists more so. I've gone through this several times. Dad, both brothers. I got physical with all three. I keep my eyes open now, but in hindsight, I do have empathy. But they don't respect that, Driftwood. Yeah, because they don't understand. They don't know. But you can have empathy. It doesn't mean you have to engage. You can love someone and you don't have to tell them. You can have empathy for someone. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to engage with them. They don't have to be your friend. You don't have to get involved. You can love people from afar, and it's perfectly fine. Quirky Chick, sending you a great big hug. Oh, thank you. Nat, me too. I had to figure out what my issue is that is a magnet for narcissists. Yeah. And a lot of times a lot of people won't tell you how to heal that. They'll just sort of suggest there's something wrong with you or whatever. There's nothing wrong with you at all. It's just this desire to share and give and help. And you know, there's also kind of a pathological fixer or helper, that you're avoiding your own problems by trying to fix broken people. That's when it's pathological, right? So that can be kind of borderline narcissistic in itself. I like that you can have empathy, but you don't have to engage. Oh, good. Yeah, I think especially, you know, when you find the truth, like the truth is earth shattering, and it's heartbreaking, and it's upsetting, and it's like mind blowing and traumatic, and you want to tell everybody, you want to save everybody, you want to help them. But when you think about it in the sense of how do you appreciate it if somebody comes into your circle uninvited and says something like, the aliens are coming, you got to get right with God. And it's like, what? You're not going to understand it. You're not going to appreciate it. You're not going to care. And you're going to think they're a lunatic and get out of my face, right? So that's what it's like if you're trying to help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. So yeah, they serve a purpose and they're beneficial. They're there to help you. If you can see it from that perspective, then great. And if you can have empathy for them, so much the better. But don't engage. You don't have to. There's no need to. So it's 5 o'clock. It's been 3 hours. I don't know how we managed to make it to 3 hours, because there was times where I thought we were done. It was like 12 minutes in. Okay, let's hang this up now. But I do appreciate the conversation. I do have one question though before we go, because I would like to understand, with the last 2 videos that I put out, the triangles and the two worlds. Well, even like the, the don't worry darlings and all this sort of stuff. Even just a short yes or no will suffice. Is it resonating? Is it coming through? Are you getting it? Or do you need more information? Is it not getting through? Like, you're intrigued, but you don't get it. It's like, yes, I get it. Intrigued, but don't get it. No, I don't understand it at all. I would really appreciate to understand where you're going, where you're at with that. I appreciate going live because I was going to do drugs, but I'm not now. Oh, okay. You're welcome. You're funny, Nat. I need more info, tying it all up if possible. Okay, that's helpful. Yep. I'd like to know where you're at with like the last few videos I've been putting out. I mean, I would really like if we could talk about it in these live chats, but I don't even know, maybe you don't know the questions to ask, you don't know what you want to ask, but even that's helpful. I need more info, tying it all up, like that sort of thing would be just helpful in how I can present this information so that it clicks or helps you make it click on your end, because there's only so much I can do. And if I can do something, I will try to do it. But if it's just a matter of you putting it together on your end, then I can't do that. But so yeah. So yeah, I would just appreciate knowing where you're at. Only Sun Tzu's going to tell me? Okay. All right. Thanks, Sun Tzu. I appreciate that. I love summaries of what's presented at the end of the video. I will start making notes on your videos. I understand a bit of it. I love it. I want more. Cool. Jack Collins, you're a latecomer. I get most of it. I guess I need to watch the other videos regarding the two worlds. Yeah, I can understand not understanding the two worlds because it's new information. And I didn't get into it too deep. I just scratched the surface. So I will get into that a lot more soon. So I understand that. And it's a lot to take in. It's hard to absorb. So I appreciate that. But it's helpful to hear how you're receiving this information, because then I can gauge what's going on. Because, some people, very few people are commenting, so I don't know where you're at. I understand a lot of it. Sometimes I need to watch it twice. The two worlds was complicated for me too. Yeah. So don't worry, the two worlds thing I will talk about more, but it's helpful to understand where you're at, so appreciate it. I understand a lot of it. Sometimes I need to watch it twice. Yeah, I don't blame you. Look, I pack a lot of information in a video because I want, first of all, I respect your time. Second, there's a lot of information to put in it. And if I didn't put it all in one video, I would put it out in 50 videos and I would never get anything out. So if you have to watch it twice or 5 times, so be it. But the information is there. I love the Two Worlds videos, Rainbow Warrior. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Your videos are awesome. Thanks, Sun Tzu. So, okay. This is helpful. I like the Greek mythology aspect of it. Cool. That's helpful too. Okay. So the Greek mythology aspect helped you understand it a little bit better. I thought it was quite clever to put it together, the Vault and Love and 007. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. That's very helpful. I still need to think about it more to understand it better. Okay, cool. Thanks, Laurie. It's very helpful. Yeah, like wherever you're at, it's fine. I just want to understand where you're at. Love your videos too. Would love more. Wide Awake in Oz. Oh, thanks. You're a first-time commenter. Welcome. Yeah, don't worry. There's more coming. And so I put things out. If there's more people commenting, I put things out in different forms so that it speaks to different levels of consciousness, like your subconscious and your consciousness, like your conscious, I guess, so that you can absorb it in multiple ways. So when I put out videos that are like Get Into My Car, where it's visual, and there's some lyrics behind it, which helps explain it. But Get Into My Car was to show you the Kundalini rising and compare Don't Worry Darling to Back to the Future in a visual way. And I had already explained Back to the Future, so I was hoping that you'd make the connection from Back to the Future and how I explained that into tying it together in this music video with the lyrics and Don't Worry Darling, and you'd be able to see it visually, because the symbolism is the easiest way to show you. And then later on, I'm going to talk about it. So don't worry, I'll get into that a little bit more when I do the Don't Worry Darling summary. I haven't finished with that yet. There's just stuff I have to get out first. So, so yeah, there's more coming on that to tie that all up. And I have more coming out on the triangles and pyramids and stuff. And but a lot of people learn different ways. So some will learn more with the visuals, and others will learn more with the explaining verbally. Some learn with a combination of all three, visually, audibly, and written, or a combination of them. So yeah, it'd be, but this is very helpful. So I appreciate this. Thank you. Okay, well, I will leave it there. Thanks for joining me, and welcome first-time commenters. Welcome back everybody who commented, who's regular. I appreciate it. Join me next week, same time, same place, and have a good week. I will see you in future videos this week. Have a good day. Bye for now.